now 6 o'clock on October 16th, 2018. The River Historical Preservation Commission is now in session. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda? Make a motion to adopt the agenda. All in favor? Approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes?
motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Second. Motion made and second. To adopt the minutes. All in favor? Motion carried. No public comment, so we will dispense with public comment. And reports of officers, standing committees.
Good evening, Dennis Lyons, Planning and Design Specialist for the City of Billerica. I probably already told you guys this, but we're taking the update to City Council the 23rd, so next Tuesday, of formal adoption. The consultant and I kind of was working through making sure there were no typographical errors at this point. I think there was a few small ones, but we just want to get those cleared up so that we're adopting the most grammatically correct comprehensive plan update that we can. That's about it on that forefront. The consultant will actually make the presentation on that evening. What's uploaded, what'll be on the agenda is that and the map, the future development map for adoption. And then we'll have to transmit that all to, well, not transmit, but they'll have to sign the resolution adopting the ordinance, and then that'll go, adopting the comprehensive plan update, and then that goes to Board of Members and the Department of Community Affairs, so that we can continue being a certified local government.
Okay. I'd like to address section 4.04 quorum.
Oh, you want to start?
Paragraph B.
Are you on ballot? She's not on ballot check. No, no.
I stand corrected. All my statements. You will be in a minute.
Any questions on comp plan update? Next is the community work station that we've been talking about. I think we've secured some assistance from Three Rivers in doing that. Part of the ordinance that the HPC operates under now, this will be a series of, so it has to be announced 3 consecutive times before it can be adopted. Staff, Bobby and I are working with Tom and the city attorney in regards to do we want to take them all at once or one at a time, or which ones do we want to start with first that would kind of be the path of least resistance in light of some of the concerns that come about. It's a very touchy subject, people's property and what they can do with it, especially when you're talking about more restrictions, even though the community says they want them, it still, can be contentious. So any suggestions on that front would
So this is going to be part of what we talked about when Paul was in, when we met at City Hall with Bobby and you and Paul and myself. We were talking about what we wanted to do for historic district, and we talked about the buildings. So what you're saying is that when you meet with the city attorney and all of the others, that each one of those will be taken as a separate entity?
No, so we have the districts that have been proposed, that were proposed in 2010 through the historic assessment, phase 1 and 2. So we had, a lot of that legwork is done. It's now to me a point of let's get these adopted, let's get them
Okay.
formalized. So that we can start working to preserve and maintain the character and integrity of the structures that we say, that the community says they want. That's one of the themes throughout the comprehensive plan, is that let's maintain the small character, the small town feel, and let's preserve the history of the city. And buildings are a great way to do that, you know. It gives something like this. People aren't going to automatically walk up to a stranger and ask about what's the history of this place. You see a building, you know there's something there, and that's what I think historic preservation for this place could be really big. I mean, we have a lot of structures that, you know, worthy of saving. It's going to be a large task. It's going to take a lot of time and energy and effort. So, but I'm willing to go for it if you guys are.
Good. So we're using a lot of what was in here, plus the newest comprehension plan to work on it, because then when we submit that to HPC, we have to fill out all these and make copies of that to give to them as well again, or will just that one that has already been given to them suffice?
We'll see where they want us to start. If we need to update any of those documents that we have, we'll see if we need to add prior to moving forward. I definitely think starting with community groups, letting them know that this is what we would like to do, and starting from that end to get us some support. I think that would help. But again, you know, the more you guys have in mind. I don't know how the powers that be feel about, you know, how things go. But
So this is why I had asked Bobby for the map, which, you know, he gave me, so it's all color-coded and it's there. And that's why before we had the community workshop, if we were able to take that map that you all made for me, the big one, and we would take and put our dotted lines in where we wanted to have it, then we could share that with the community. But it has to be done separately so that we're not having a quorum to do it, which is why I sent the email out to everybody to come in and do this, so that we'll be able to bring that to them, and then have the community input as well.
so, I know I can spend more time on it than I've been able to after we're done with the end of this month. We've been undergoing budget and reorganization and a lot of different things, kind of all at the same time. And it's been overwhelming for most of us. So definitely that's something that I'm meeting with Tom on Wednesday, tomorrow. I'm actually driving to Americas tonight for some planning and zoning training in the morning, after we get out here. But Thursday, this will be the first thing I bring up when I talk to him, that we want to move forward, and the commission is really looking forward to doing a little bit more than we've been doing, and really moving, like one of the first groups that have been echoing already what the comp plan said we want to do, and we've been saying it for years. So,
Okay.
So that's for that. And any questions on that part? I want to address the historic assessment and fancy boutique.
Yes, please do.
So, for the historic assessment, the one section that's missing is so bizarre. And I've looked in all the documents that we have been able to find, and it looks exactly like it is on the website. In the big book of 600 some odd pages, it's just missing. So I've put out a call to Dr. Ann McCleary, who worked on it, originally one of the people that worked on it. There's some other people listed, but I don't think there's so much involved with UWG anymore. University of West Georgia. So I'm starting with her because she's listed as one of the main people that worked on that. So as soon as I hear back from her as to what might have happened with that, or what, if it doesn't exist, then what do we need to do to make that, or how do we go back doing that, maybe doing that ourselves, or soliciting some help to do it. So that's one thing. That's what is that as. It's kind of a mystery.
And did she ever come back and sign the application that you had? You told me they didn't sign it.
So, Fancy Boutique, I've called her. I explained to the property owner, to the business owner, that you did not obtain a sign permit for this. Because if you did, we would have been alerted that you need to go through certificate appropriateness process. So I was kind of explaining two different processes at the same time to someone that is kind of unfamiliar with how these things go. So I offered to come down and speak with her personally. I've emailed her the application and kind of followed up with what the conversation we've had. Code enforcement has also been down to speak with her. She was not there, and from what our code guy told me is that it doesn't look like they've been open in the past couple weeks or so, or maybe it was missing when they're there.
Yeah, they're missing when they're there because she's very, very erratic hours. I see her sometimes, because I run in the downtown area in the mornings, and I see her there working, moving furniture in and out, and then other times she's not there. So
What time do you see her?
Typically I run around 8, and that's when I've seen her the most.
And I've seen her around 9:30, 10 o'clock, going by there with actually by, and now they've got something decorated up as well, and yeah, so they're obviously doing it. And I noticed that after we talked about the paint on the brick, that still has not come off either.
Well, when I spoke to her, she kept talking to me about an awning, and I was almost like, don't say that word out loud. Like Candyman.
Well, the awning that she had, they took down.
Right, and she was like, well, what happened to my awning? I was like, well, that has nothing, that you need to speak to the property owner about that. I'm not aware of anything like that. And if you're thinking about putting it back up, you will have to come get a building permit, and you have to get a certificate of appropriateness. So, we're trying not to escalate it to the next level of citation, because that comes next. We want to give everybody a fair chance to come do what they're supposed to do. Seeing as how we're in October, I know business renewal season is coming up. This can impact their ability to renew if they're not going to correct it. But we're staying on it to make sure that we try to get them to come in. Our code is really vague as to escalation steps. So I'm working really closely with code to make sure that we're tracking that. Called them this day, emailed them that day, put a note on the door this day, went back by again this day, so that we show that before we issue a citation, you have to appear in court. Because I don't know if that falls on the business owner or the property owner, but maybe both.
Probably both.
Right. So before we take it to that level, because that gets a lot more people involved, I think we've been at this for about 3 weeks now, since our last meeting, that we've been working, trying to get it resolved. And I just ended up speaking to her one day and explaining the process to her, but and she seemed like she wanted to take care of it, but she also kind of seemed overwhelmed.
Speaking of the property owner, to your knowledge, has anyone contacted, is it Mr. Large who owns that?
Which is strange, because the neighbor came and did what they had to do.
Right.
So, yeah.
But she's also very familiar with historic preservation, Ms. Norton, who made that application for
When we talked to the man who was doing
The work.
inside, he said that Mr. Lord would be very open to all this and having her do everything she was supposed to be doing. And he was very sure that the owner of the business would certainly want to comply with everything. So that's what we're under. And of course, then speaking with you last week, and he told me that she hadn't come back to sign the application.
Right, to fill it out. I mean, I offered to help out, like come down, tell you what to write. Whoever did the sign, just have them contact us. You can have them fill this out. And you just come represent yourself on the day of, get it moving forward. But the next step is going to be citation, and we're kind of trying to avoid that because our sign ordinance is kind of strange right now. One of the things that we're going to address next year is the sign ordinance along with the zoning code.
Again. Again.
Well, yeah, the sign ordinance should have been addressed when the Supreme Court decision came down regarding signs, which says you cannot regulate signs based on content, message. And that's per the Supreme Court, and there's still language in there that regulates based on content.
Yeah.
And that would have been a good time to just revamp the whole thing and put in enforcement and penalties, but we're working towards that. That's what my understanding is in the new year. That's one thing community development will do is find a consultant to assist us with rewriting the zoning ordinance.
Yeah.
Well, we're creating a zoning ordinance because it's all in the UEC right now.
And Bobby, you gave me the names of some different cities to take a look at what they are, so I've been kind of looking at all their ordinances to see how they all jive with what the Supreme Court says, so.
Right. And I have a contact in the city of Atlanta that works in historic preservation who's willing to assist us, and if we have any questions moving through, because they just nominated a property to their register, the local register, and he said it took them about 9 months. Well, like for a community, it takes about 9 months. For one single property, and the property owner wants to do it,
Right.
it didn't take long. He said maybe 3 months with
Okay.
planning out everything. So,
Do we know how long it took, was it Temple or Billings? Temple, I think it was. Didn't Temple just designate something a couple of months back? And I wonder how long it took them. I suppose I could call and ask her. Because she mentioned that when we went to the training at Three Rivers,
I'm not familiar. I'm not,
they did something that was in Temple. And I know that there weren't that many of us at that training at Three Rivers back in August, but however long it took them, we can check and see how long it took them.
I have to check that out. I'm not aware
Okay.
of that. But that's all for my reports.
Okay.
Any questions before we jump into our bylaws?
Okay, bylaws.
Alright. So, what we've done basically with the bylaws at this point is amended them for housekeeping reasons. You guys expressed interest in increasing the number of members. We had the change of dates due to the city council moving to 2 meetings a month. So one of the housekeeping issues is that we declare the meeting date in the bylaws, so that needs to be updated. But we're adding the addition of the 6th member, and
While you're in there at this point, remember, I talked to Tom, and you talked to Tom, and you explained to me, because I was concerned about the time frame for each one of those based on what was my original thing. Would you explain to the commission
about the staggered time.
about the salary part of it? Because it still is very hard for me to understand what my head around that staggered part of it.
Alright, so each member shall have a term of office, this is section 3.03. Each member has to have a term of office for 3 years, or until their successor shall be appointed. Members may not serve more than 2 consecutive terms. In order to achieve staggered terms, initial appointment shall be 1 member for 1 year, 2 members for 2 years, and 3 members for 3 years. So,
Yeah, because my concern was that if you were appointed for 1 year, and then would that be considered a term? And then if you're appointed again for that, so I really wanted her, and Denise had a wonderful explanation for me that it finally got me to understand what she was talking about.
well, the way I kind of interpreted it was that if you were appointed for 1 year, and your year is up, and there are 2 members that are 2 years, and another one that's 3, and maybe their terms are kind of coming in at the same time, or closing at the same time as yours. At that time, when your term is up, we'll see who's up as well, and then we can decide if you're going to go 1 more year, 2 more years, or 1 year or 2 years. And then if you were appointed for 2 years, your next term could only be 1. As long as we get to 3, until we get to 3, then we don't have a term. So it doesn't, if it takes 3 years.
It's just laddering is all it is.
Yeah.
So if you have to be appointed 3 times for 1 year, that's still only 1 term.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
See, that's the part that I was having trouble, now I understand that.
Term of office is 3 years.
Right, but all it is, okay, in order to get this whole thing going is,
Yeah,
you're 1, and you're appointed for 3.
right.
whoever, the next time two of them come up, on the next expiration,
Yeah,
their term's 3.
it's kind of,
The 3, when it comes up, will then be 3. It's just all this is, I don't know how you get 1, 1, 1 before you go to a 3. No, in laddering, you go 1 before you
but
come to 3.
there are members that already are in the 2 years.
So, now you're gonna be a 3. 1's now gonna become a 3.
All right.
The 2's now become 1s.
If they're-
And whenever they're, and when they, no, they're either gonna be,
I think it works out, like, in practice, easier than it is on paper.
Yeah.
well, what you're trying to do is convert consistent, what am I gonna say?
It worked out when we were sitting at times, because
Well, they're really non-conforming terms, they're really non-conforming terms because,
the term is a 3-year term, no matter how you manage to do the 3 years. And you can have 2 consecutive terms, which means you have a total of 6 years.
Yeah,
Okay, here we got
I
it.
think we're safe. And then 4.01 changes the regular meeting from the second Tuesday to the third Tuesday.
Right.
Change section 4.04. Is that what we're talking about there? Letter B? Okay.
consists of,
Shall consist of 3 members.
but you struck 3, so what's it gonna be, 3 or 4?
3. I talked to Tom. He said 3 is fine.
Yeah,
So your strike of 3 is incorrect.
That's right.
Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
So that remains the same.
yeah, it need to be unstruck.
Unstruck.
Okay.
Struck. Unstruck.
Yeah.
Make it work. And everything else is remaining the same. We're gonna, on the amendments, we'll change the date to 2018.
Yeah.
And city council hopefully will approve this. Oh, there's another one
I think they will.
at the bottom of the test. Let me fix that.
And on page 8, you're making sure that it says 2018 instead of 17.
There we go.
It's already struck out, but we're gonna make sure that they see that.
So I will fix this on Thursday when I return.
Okay.
And this is going before city council this
Next Tuesday, next Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yep.
A week from today.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Denise, for all your work. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I've been putting up with all my questions and even,
It's a good time.
even our city manager, I mean, I probably bothered the other days out of him until I could wrap my hand around what's going on too.
Y'all know what kind of questions you get all day, like, these ones are fun.
Yeah.
We get some strange ones. Someone called me about speed bumps today. They want speed bumps.
I want a speed bump
Where?
in front of my house.
You're gonna call potholes,
It won't happen though because it's a
busy street.
not Dallas Highway. It's 101. They won't do it.
What they do is,
DOT. That's what I was trying to come up with. I couldn't.
you like, oh, look at this, nice. I'm coming for you.
Yeah, I had asked for a speed bump, where we are on Liberty Road by the truck stop, so that people aren't coming up over the hill, we can't because the Liberty Road there is not,
Yeah.
so, can't do it.
I don't see how people see the streets are not very wide.
Oh, believe me, they do. We live between Fullerville Baptist and Happy Valley Baptist, and when they come out of Fullerville, I literally have motorcycles racing in front of my house. And let me just say this for the record. My sister was hit by a car on her 11th birthday and almost died. She was life-flighted off of that road. And that is the only reason why they dropped it 5 miles an hour, but only on one side. The other direction, it's 35. Going towards Fullerville, it's 30.
going out of town.
And you see what happens on Liberty Road when the truck stop up there is that people now are willing to go into the truck stop and come out the other way so they can come down because of that hole that's there, because you can't see somebody, and they're coming at, even if it's only 35 miles an hour, you can't see them, and the trucks are pulling out from behind, and there is no light or anything else, even a flashing light, so, there will be eventually a bad accident again there. But anyway.
It makes some street design.
Oh, you missed the accident on the bridge last night.
Hold on.
Exit 26, it was a good one,
Okay, is there any other new business?
Motion adjourned.
Okay. Second. Sure. Did you have any other business?
I do not.
Okay.
I'm very anxious to get back to my house.
Don't worry about the cows. We went to shower after taking care of those cows.
Already been there.
Oh, okay.
I got horse burning on video.